Let's solve part C now. So in equilibrium, what wage is offered by the companies and which individuals work for a company? Now, how is this different from what we've done so far? So in the previous videos, we saw what would be the wage if everyone would work for the company, but in part B, we also saw that for that wage, some people will not accept it. Some people will be self-employed. Now, with this in mind, we can calculate what would be the equilibrium wage. So on this range, as we saw, is that the best workers with ability higher of 0.7 are going to be self-employed, meaning that the revenue, the average revenue created by the worker, is going to be the midpoint on this range only, so between 0 and 0.7. That would be the average revenue that the worker creates, and we want to compare that to how much the company is paying, because if the company is having a loss on those workers, then it's going to reduce the salary because it's not worth to pay so much. So let's see what's going to be the average value created over here. What's going to be the average revenue, so to speak? Well, since that's going to be the midpoint, we saw how to calculate the midpoint over here, the expected value. That's going to be a half, so that's going to be a half multiplied with the worst case scenario and the best case scenario. So the revenue created by the worst case scenario would be 5,000 multiplied with an ability of 0 plus 1,000. That is the revenue created to the company. Let me just recall that from the question over here. The individual creates revenue equal to 5,000 plus times A plus 1,000. Hope this makes sense. So 5,000 times 0 plus 1,000, and then we have to eat the best case scenario, and the best case scenario would be 5,000 multiplied with 0.7, and think of it this way. This is the best case scenario now because the workers better than 0.7 are gone. They're not in the company. So the most that we can expect in terms of revenue would be from workers with an ability of 0.7. So 5,000 times 0.7 plus 1,000. Now, if we solve the math over here, that would be a value worth of 2,750 euros. So 2,750 euros. Now, what did we calculate in the previous video? We saw the wage that the companies would pay, and that wage would be 3,500 euros. So the company pays 3,500 euros, where every worker on average generates 2,750 euros. So the company pays more than what it gets from the worker, meaning that the company has a loss. What is the decision to do now? Well, the decision is to reduce the salary. So company makes a loss, meaning that it's going to reduce the salary. So it reduces the wage. Now, what happens when the company still reduces the wage? Let's see on the graph so we can understand it better. Now, if it reduces the wage, so instead of paying 3,500 euros over here, which made the worker indifferent between wage and self-employment, the wage is going to go down. Let's say it's going to shift somewhere over there. Now, with the same logic, the workers that are better off being self-employed are going to be self-employed, meaning that more workers are going to be self-employed and the wage paid by the company is going to be reduced. Now, the question is, what is that wage? What's going to be the ability that's going to make the worker indifferent between self-employment and working for the company? That's going to be this ability that we're looking for right now. Now, how can we calculate an indifference point? Well, we have to make the earnings equivalent, meaning the earnings that the workers would get under self-employment, which would be 5,000 times that ability. So we would have over here 5,000 times the ability that we're looking for is equal to the wage paid by the company, and the wage paid by the company would be the expected value. So what is the expected value on this range? That's the question. The expected value on this range over here that's paid by the company, well, that would be a half times the worst case scenario plus the best case scenario. So we would have over here a half times, what is the worst case scenario? Well, the worst case scenario is that the worker generates 0 value. So that would be 5,000 multiplied with 0 plus 1,000. And then on the other side, we would have the best case scenario. And the best case scenario would be that the worker generates that certain ability, because that would be the maximum point of ability on our range, this ability over here. So we would have 5,000 times A, so we would have 5,000 times A plus 1,000. Now it's a matter of math, so let's see how that's going to work out. What do we have? We have 5,000 times A on the left side, we keep it like that, and on the other side, let's open the brackets. So we have 1,000 times over here, the result is just 1,000, so just 1,000. A half times 1,000 is gonna give us 500. So we have 500 plus we multiply a half with 5,000 times A, so we multiply it with the next term. A half times 5,000 is 2,500, so that would be 2,500 times A. And we also multiply a half with the last term. A half goes over here. A half times 1,000 is going to be 500, so plus 500 again. Now, what's that going to be? Let's see. We have 5,000 A. Let's take the 2,500 A on the other side. So 5,000 minus 2,500, that's 2,500 multiplied with A, is equal to 500 plus 500, that's equal to 1,000. So A would be equal to 1,000 divided by 2,500. A would be equal to 1,000 divided by 2,500, which is equal to 0.4. Which is equal to 0.4. What does this mean? Let's see on our graph again. It means that the ability that makes the worker indifferent between self-employment and wage has been reduced to 0.4. And the intuition is that in the beginning, the company saw that it gets less revenue from the workers than what it was paying, so it's going to reduce the salary. Reducing the salary makes the workers switch to self-employment. So even workers with ability higher than 0.4 now is going to go for self-employment. So this range over here is going to be self-employment, and the range until the level of 0.4 is going to go to work for the company. Hope this makes sense. In the next video we go to part D.